Welcome to the Front Four Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Marchese. Alongside me, as always, my friend, my pal, my confidant, my whatever the hell you want to call him, but my co-host, Jeff Azaparty.
There you go.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was waiting for the comment here from you. But
yeah, I was thinking about it. I couldn't come up with anything this week, Maddie. We're through by Mageddon. I'm just happy to be here. Like, that's it.
You're just having Armageddon this week at work. That's all.
Yes.
That's what the balance is.
That's it. No, that's every week. You know, we were both used to that. So whatever.
Chaos. Our lives would be nothing if it weren't for chaos.
Without a doubt.
You can follow us on Twitter at MattyMar89, at J_party, and at front the number 4 fantasy. Okay, let's get right into it. The first topic will be talking about two offenses that we saw go up against each other, and we expected a shootout. We expected tons of points scored, and only one team did it. And how we're going to kind of phrase this is, which one of these threesomes, keep your mind out of the gutter, out of the gutter.
Tough. It's tough not to go there, Maddie.
Well, when you hear it, you might change your mind. Which would you rather have for the rest of the season? And we'll go with Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill, or Ryan Tannehill, AJ Brown, and Derrick Henry. Now, at first glance, I thought.
So we're talking the Chiefs versus the Titans. Let's say
basically
the
top three guys, because we're not including Julio in there. We're not including any of the other. Well, because the other players on Kansas City don't matter in reality. And
let's say this to bring it full circle, like the other team in the mix here is the Bills, because in the last 2 of 3 weeks, right? The Chiefs lost to both the Bills and the Titans. Meanwhile, the Titans in 2 consecutive weeks have beaten the Bills and the Chiefs, right?
We don't want to talk about that.
I had to fit it in somewhere, so I had to add the Bills in there. Anyways, go ahead.
Well, I wouldn't. So I wouldn't even have the Bills 3 in there, because I just look at the top end. Well, I guess you could.
I'm just saying in the mix. It's like it's a sample size, right? Like these 3 teams have all been kind of intertwined over the last 3 weeks. They've played each other. And the Chiefs kind of got crushed by both of them, right? Meanwhile, the Titans won both of them. So it's like, we see one offense trending in one way and we see the other offense trending in the other way, which I think makes this an interesting conversation.
Okay, so right off the hop, who are you picking? Like, which 3 would you rather have? And I got, like, unless you want to give me some, I can give you some numbers first, and then we can kind of.
For sure. And I was going to say, like, to me, it kind of goes on an individual basis. Like, you go quarterbacks, right? You go Mahomes versus Tannehill. Who's your picking there? I'm going to pick, obviously I'm going Patrick Mahomes, I think, in that one, right? Like, Tannehill to me hasn't looked like himself. Yeah. Like, to some extent, I guess you could say Mahomes hasn't looked like himself either. But it's funny because I was reading, and I can't remember, I wish I should have written down who wrote it, but somebody at CBS Sports wrote an article and examined, like, if Mahomes' like numbers are down in terms of like his drop back, how long he's holding the ball, this and that. And nothing has changed this year for him. Nothing. He used to, the only thing that had changed was, I think he previously always led the league and dropped interceptions. And this year, some of those interceptions have been caught. So it's kind of insane. So let's talk about that specifically. Mahomes has 5 interceptions to 4 touchdowns in his last 3 games. And he's thrown way more interceptions, like you mentioned, this year than we've seen ever before. Patrick Mahomes, through all these struggles, through all this crap that's going on, is still QB5. When I saw that, it blew my mind. Now, he might be lower. He might be lower on the list if your league has more punitive points for interceptions. Like, if you're playing in a league where it's 5 points for a touchdown, like the league we play in our dynasty league is 5 points for a touchdown, but it's -3 for an interception. Guess what? I started Patrick Mahomes last week and he sucked. But I agree with you. Ryan Tannehill, only 3 touchdown passes last 4 weeks, but he does have the 2 rushing scores. The difference is he's just not throwing the interceptions. And frankly, Derrick Henry threw for one of those touchdowns last week, like matched them, right? Anyway,
so let's kind of break
and all
this
I was
down.
going to say, Maddie, and then so say you pair up. So I'm looking at QBs. Which QB do I take? Then you look at, say, Derrick Henry versus Travis Kelce, like pretty much the best running back in the game versus the best tight end in the game.
And it's not even close.
Right. Like
it's not even close.
True. And then it just comes
Travis
down to
Kelce.
Receivers.
No, I'm kidding.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, to me, it's just, man, Derrick Henry is just so dominating. If you're going to take 3, like, why wouldn't you want the one most dominating player?
So there's my
it. And then to finish it off, then you just go to receivers. There's a Tyreek Hill and AJ Brown. And at the start of the season, you would have said Tyreek Hill, and who has been like, when he's on fire, nobody's catching or stopping him.
No. Okay, so anyway. So here's what the question is. Is Derrick Henry so much better than both Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce that he makes up for whatever you lose in terms of if you're picking Patrick Mahomes and the KC offense? Like, well, that is the big question.
Matty, it comes down to, because I went into the season thinking AJ Brown was going to have some kind of breakout year. Like he is a big, strong, powerful guy, and if he starts making, like, I was expecting him to kind of have the season DK Metcalf had last year, like be on full display. He's the number one guy. You added Julio Jones, kind of complementing and like hopefully take away some of the coverage on him. Like I was expecting AJ Brown to take that next step up. And I don't, like, last 2 weeks, yes, maybe he has, but first weeks in which AJ Brown's for real. Like that would be my question in that argument.
I think he's healthy now. So I think what we've seen the last 2 weeks is what we should expect from AJ Brown. Now, a couple of things. Dan Orlovsky did a really, really good breakdown of Patrick Mahomes. So if you follow him on Twitter, check it out. It was a brilliant breakdown about the RPO and how it's affecting.
I'm gonna go check it out.
Yeah, and how
even I learned things on this podcast. That's pretty cool.
That's what we're here for. Even the co-host.
Thanks for sending it before, texting and flagging it for me, Matty. That was great.
Buddy,
jerk.
Buddy, my days are all blurred. Somebody passed it along to me and I forgot to even send it out and tweet it. And then the other thing is, before we move on to the next topic, is the Buffalo Bills defense gave the rest of the league the formula to beat Patrick Mahomes in this offense. And not like, it's nothing crazy. It's taking away Tyreek Hill and the deep ball. Don't let the deep ball kill you, but you have to get pressure from your front four. The Bills in that game, Jeff, you saw how dominant they were. They blitzed twice.
Right. It wasn't pretty crappy ready. See, and here's what I would counter to that is that to me, the Chiefs' biggest problem is they haven't been able to establish anybody outside of those two weapons for Mahomes. Like Mecole Hardman has never stepped up to be that secondary receiver.
He's hit or miss.
Right. He's hit or miss, but most of the time it's missed. But it hasn't been a consistent other option for him that can be there constantly. Pringle isn't that guy. Even the running game, they have problems establishing sometimes. Yeah. Like could they have established either of those, either the running game or a secondary receiver to complement Kelce and Hill? Like I think this offense is still flourishing and going, right? It's like, it's about the options, which is the same reason I thought adding Julio Jones might help AJ Brown have that big breakout year that I think a lot of people expected. So like their inability to, and now, like you said, like how long have they been dominating? And a team gives the blueprint and then everybody starts doing it. And and it'll take the Chiefs. I'm not worried about the Chiefs offense, but I think it'll take them some time to adjust, and their numbers may be lower than it has in the past.
Imagine that they took Clyde Edwards-Helaire over DeAndre Swift or Jonathan Taylor. Like, come on.
Wait, that happened.
Yeah. Imagine that they did that. And what would Jonathan Taylor look like in that offense?
Or DeAndre Swift? You're 100% right. I agree with you, man.
By the way, for those, everybody knows that I'm a big DeAndre Swift stan. The guy's on pace for like 126 targets this year. So I'll just leave that there. Okay. It's Halloween this week. And of course,
you dressing up, Matty?
Buddy, I dress up every day. Look at me. I open the door. People
don't
are
even
scared
leave
right
the
away.
house. No.
The kids are gonna knock on the door and be like, "Oh my gosh, frightening." So players to be scared of this week, and I got an Alabama connection for both of mine.
There we go.
And I will start with Mac Jones. So Mac Jones looks like a very competent NFL quarterback, even as a rookie. He's got poise. He's got arm talent. He's fine. He looked great last week. They played the New York Jets. The New York Jets suck. And this week, they get the Chargers defense, who's allowing slightly over 200 passing yards per game. I like Mac Jones. I think he's been, as I said, he's been pretty good this season. But this week is #no bueno, because the Chargers defense gets after you. Joey Bosa is a monster, And I look at how that secondary has played, and they've been really good. Derwin James finally healthy. It's a bad situation for Mac Jones this week, and I think we're going to see a lot of Damian Harris and the Patriots running the ball. I'm staying away from Mac Jones this week.
Yep. Okay, makes sense. And give me the Alabama connection. Let's do your two, because I only got one here, but I do have two. I'll say that. So
the guy that took over from him, at quarterback at Alabama was Tua Tagovailoa. And again, Tua, since coming back from the injury, so he's been 2 weeks that he's been back, QB3 over those 2 weeks. Really good. Very good numbers. Let's stop for a second. Let's have our Zen moment, and let's look at who Tua Tagovailoa has played the last 2 weeks. One of them, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They suck. The other one, the Atlanta Falcons. Their defense sucks. Who does Tua get this week? He can hear the footsteps. It's like that horror movie where you can hear the villain or the monster creeping up the stairs, and it's about to either eat you or kill you. Those footsteps are the Buffalo Bills defense that are coming to play the Miami Dolphins. And Tua remembers getting knocked out in week 2 by the Bills defense, and that started a whole spiral for the Miami Dolphins. I'm staying away from Tua this week. He has looked good, but the Bills coming off the bye, pissed off at how they lost to the Titans. I don't see anything.
True.
Tua is like,
watch out now.
Tua is like the group of teenagers that decides to go into the basement instead of taking the car that's running outside.
So here's what I'll say, especially about Tua, was it seemed like, especially on social media, people were over Tua by almost the end of that game last week against the Falcons. And then he threw 2 late touchdowns, and it just changed his entire fantasy day. Like, other than those 2 late touchdowns, he wasn't having a great day. He wasn't looking good, right? Like, if you look at his numbers over the last 2 weeks, they look decent since he's come back. But really, when you're watching the games, and like I said, when you look how the points were scored, not all that great. Because some people, I think we talked about it last week, even the broadcast were talking about people losing faith in him already, and it's over, right? And you got to hear the rumblings that well, there are rumors, maybe they're interested in Deshaun and this and that, but so Tua, I don't disagree with you. I think Mac Jones trending in the right way. I think Belichick's going to start opening up that offense, and the way they get their running backs involved, like, who knows, right? All of a sudden he starts throwing a lot to his running backs, but I agree with you that this might not be the week to look at him continue that trend up.
Okay, quickly, Jeff, before we get to yours, I have a question for you, just because you brought something up about the losing faith in Tua and just everything that we're hearing. If you had to put money on one of these 2 quarterbacks to be the starter for their team next year, would it be Tua or would it be Jalen Hurts?
Oh, that's pretty good.
This is where we ask the hard-hitting questions here on the Front Four Fantasy Podcast.
I'd say Jalen Hurts. I really do. I know they're starting to look at him, and I do think they kind of give him a shot this week. To me, he's a little bit like Lamar was when he first came. He's just having problems completing some simple passes, and I think in this league, like, that'll come to him eventually. So maybe just give him a break for now. Or to me, I read this somewhere, and it's true. Like, if they win this week, and it's a pretty winnable matchup for them, like, they're still in the hunt. They could still do this. And they have some pretty, like, their strength of schedule for rest of the season is pretty weak. So they could make a run here if they get his confidence up. And part of it, maybe that's why they're thinking of turning to Gardner Minshew. I don't know. But I would put my money on Jalen Hurts.
I think they're turning to Gardner Minshew because he's got a great mustache and great hair.
Who wouldn't like that?
I know what it's like. Okay, so who is your
so I'm going to start with
this. You're scared of?
When you pitch these segments, I think you're always setting me up to talk about Robbie Anderson, because, like, here's another guy I've just been scared of. I need to bring him up.
You pitched this one to me. It's true. You want to talk about
but, like, it's like Robbie Anderson fits into all these. Anyways, so I will say this. Now, every week, my not disdain for him, and even just my thought process.
No, it's disdain. It's disdain.
Always changes. Yeah, well, not even anymore, because now I'm kind of hate almost as much as Sam Darnold.
You have empathy for him.
He just can't even hit him sometimes. Like, yeah, what they're doing on the completion to target ratio is just mind blowing. And I don't know who to be more mad at, if it's Robbie or if it's Sam Darnold, or it just changes week to week. So I'm scared of both those guys. Like, I'll just throw that out there. There's an easy two. I'm staying away from both those guys. Another guy who kind of adds to this mix, who might not be a surprise, is Mike Davis in Atlanta. Oh. Like, he is. Like, man, I read on, well, yeah, where was it? I don't know. Anyways, to have thought I had maybe some sort of hope in this guy being anything this year makes me think, like, I know nothing. Like, he cannot establish himself at all. Like, it is terrible. And against the Panthers defense that at times has looked all right. Like, I just think this is the week they fully make the change to Cordero Patterson. And not only is he a wide receiver threat, but he becomes the RB1 over there. Like, it's insane.
And you know what? Like, the thing that kind of gets me, like, nobody hit on this. No, like, not the Mike Davis thing. Nobody hit on Cordero Patterson. Yeah. Not one. Nobody thought it was going to be. It was. And
looking back, it was a good situation for him to be walking into. Like I said, like, he showed some really strong signs in Chicago last year. So to know this was the situation he was walking into behind a guy like Mike Davis, and in an offense like that where he can go wide out or be a running back, like. Actually, looking back, you maybe should have seen this coming, but nobody did. You're right.
A buddy of mine, I'll just shout him out, Will Harris, at It's Harris Time.
You've said some not so nice things about Will.
Shut up.
I'm kidding.
Will does
I'm
a
kidding,
great
Will.
job.
I'm kidding.
Will does a great job with Viridian Global, and he does a great job with the Canadian National Best Ball Champions League. By the way, which I did finish first in this week, and I am first overall. That's why he's
bringing you up, Will. He just wants to brag about
because Will's cheating the system for me. No,
well, hit me up. I'll take his place. I'll jump in.
The point that Will made to me was, like, maybe we overthought the freakish athleticism that Cordero Patterson has. Maybe we just need to start looking at the physical traits that some of these guys have.
And he's been in the league for a while. Like, he's getting older, but you know what? Those years where he didn't have to take on that stress, like, his body's not as banged up as other people his age. So he might just be getting started here. It's crazy.
Yeah. And the Mike Davis thing, I didn't have high hopes for Mike Davis because every part of this situation screamed that Mike Davis was just going to get this insane volume, and he just hasn't gotten it. Cordero Patterson has looked miles better.
But in that offense, yeah, for sure. And in that offense, it would be hard for him to get that volume too. I know they pitched it, and again, another team who just keeps preaching how they want to establish the run to open up everything else, and then it just seems like they never actually commit to it. It's crazy.
Well, their defense is so bad that it's really hard to do that, right?
That's true. That's very true too. You're always
maybe in a different situation but again, the Mike Davis thing to me, it's completely mind-blowing. They did nothing to address the position. They signed undrafted free agent Javian Hawkins. He didn't even make the team. Quadri Olison was there. They cut him. They let Ito Smith. Was it Ito Smith that was still?
Yeah.
I think
he was one of the doctors. Yeah.
And he was another guy that just like, no, you know what? We're done. And then Cordero Patterson's the guy that's just sitting there, and he's kind of just like, oh, everybody forgot about me. Okay. And if you picked up Cordero Patterson, which you probably did late round in best ball leagues, like, he's killing it right now. And the fact that we couldn't see this coming is one of the most curious things that I've ever seen in fantasy. It's been one of the most unpredictable things, because it's not like he's a rookie that came out of nowhere. He's a guy who's been around the block, like you said. And all of a sudden he is an absolute stud. Okay, we can move on from the Atlanta Falcons and Cordero Patterson, but
yes, we can.
Okay, now another segment that you wanted to plug to me and pitch to me, Jeff. You're 2 for 2 this week. I mean, trick or treat.
Actually, I think 3 for 3, Maddie. I think I came up with 3 of these.
You did.
Who's counting?
You may have actually come up with all 4, because
you've done
talk about KC's offense.
You've done the majority of the work up to this point. So
all I do is record. I hit record on the video, Jeff. Okay, so trick or treat, and you know what? You explain the segment because it's your baby.
Okay, just okay, yeah. See, now I'm at a loss for words.
Okay,
anyways, just players and their recent performances, and if you believe in them, and especially moving forward, if it's a trick or if it's a treat. Like, where should you bank on these players moving forward?
Okay, so
Is that good enough? Is that good
that's-
enough? Yeah, I should have thought of that more.
it's
You're the
almost-
wordsmith. You know
it's-
you're the A chair here, Maddie. I'm just along for the ride. You're
it's-
Batman, I'm Robin. I don't know how
it's-
many times I gotta say this.
it's almost as if you produced radio shows before and know how to put a show together. What a
There you go.
surprise.
Yeah, but just let me stay behind. Usually it's always behind the scenes. So.
Yeah. Okay, so Jamar Chase is easily my treat because he started off the year and it was like, oh, Jamar Chase, he's not really involved. And Jamar Chase is this, and Jamar Chase can't catch and he can't create separation. Jamar Chase told you all to stuff it. The fact that Jamar Chase was not wide receiver one, the wide receiver one rookie coming in for everybody that was on the board means that you're all dumb because it wasn't even close. And I can say that because I had Jamar Chase number 1 and then I had Jalen Waddle number 2.
Right.
I feel like I'm vindicated here. A lot of people had Jamar Chase number 1. That's not a hot take, but he's been like insanely good. Over 200 yards this past week, had an 82-yard touchdown. He doesn't need to create separation off the line because he's a physical receiver. He can get open. He creates his own separation within, a few yards here. And that's all he needs because then he takes off. He's the wide receiver 3 on the year, Jeff. He's been that good. And he has had a touchdown in what seems like every single game. And it might actually be, but he's just been incredible this year. And that is an easy treat for me because if he's this good already, what's going to happen as we continue going on the rest of the season? Like, I think Tyler Boyd is a really good wide receiver. I hope Tyler Boyd goes somewhere else because he's done in Cincy the way that Jamar Chase is playing.
He might have been. I was actually looking at him as my trick, Maddie. Like, I don't trust anywhere in that. I don't trust him in that offense anymore. Yeah, for sure. Without a doubt, I'm with you on that.
All right, who's your first trick or treat?
My treat will be, I'll start with Michael Pittman Jr. in Indianapolis. Like, he has looked phenomenal the last couple of weeks. Carson Wentz is playing better, so you kind of have to think they're trending in the right direction and they're going to keep it going. Like, he's got a 26% target share since week 2, and he's had at least 20 fantasy points 2 of the last 3 weeks. And I think, again, with Carson Wentz playing the way he's playing now, it's all systems go with this kid. Like, we were promised him at the beginning of the season to be more involved and be a legit threat and option for this offense. And he's definitely showing it. And I'm fully aboard the Michael Pittman train.
Is there any concern? And it's a big if because he can't. No, do you know where I'm going with this?
Yes.
If he's healthy, are you worried about T.Y.
Hilton? No, I am not. I was going to try and make the T.Y. sign. No, not at all. I am not. It seems, again, I think Carson Wentz has learned to trust this guy. Like, there were a few weeks where it looked iffy, or I don't know if that was still Wentz being hurt. Now I think he's all systems go. Like I said, they've shown some chemistry the last few weeks. And I think he's definitely the guy, I think, that T.Y. used to be for the Colts and maybe for Peyton, where he looks for him in the end zone. I see Michael Pittman being that guy for Carson Wentz.
I think it's fair. You asked the question a few
and then this
ago.
week they're playing the Titans, who allow I think
1 billion points to everybody.
Right. Yeah. And especially in the red zone to receivers. I should have written down what the number was, but they allow a lot of fantasy points to receivers.
So you asked the question a few weeks back about what is real. Was it this performance or that performance? And I said it. The performance that was real was the one where he had like 120 yards on 5 catches or whatever it was. Like, Michael Pittman is that big bodied receiver that teams yearn for. It's the guy that teams want. He's got good speed, and he's got he's got the ability. He's got
and when he goes,
receiver.
I said, sorry, he had 20 plus points 2 of the last 3 weeks. It's actually 3 of the last 6 games. So when he's firing on all cylinders, like, not only are you getting double digits, you're getting in the 20s. It's not even in the teens. It's in the 20s that you're getting from this guy. So, and
you said it, the biggest difference is that Carson Wentz is playing much better football. And that makes,
I hate to admit it, because I've never really been aboard that train, but he has been playing really well.
He's not quite MVP level that we saw Carson Wentz, but he's certainly way better than he was the last 2 seasons. There's no question about it. He's comfortable. He looks healthy for the time being. He looks like a quarterback that could really cause problems down the stretch here, especially in that division. Outside of Tennessee, who I'm still not convinced is that good.
I agree.
Might be okay.
And then my other one, I just saw, I always got to give a hat tip or an honorable mention. The other one would be Emmanuel Sanders. Like you said, I think the Bills, I think the Bills offense is gonna come out on fire. Like you said, pissed off about that last loss and off the bye. And Manny stepped up as the number 2 receiver in that offense. Like we talked about, we all wondered who it would be. And it's definitely Manny. I think he comes out on fire, and he's definitely a treat to watch. So I'll make him a treat too.
He's been fantasy relevant every week this year. Pretty much. Like he's been excellent. Okay, I'll give you my trick.
Okay.
I really like this guy as a receiver, but the quarterback play hasn't been great, despite the fact that he's been really good. But couple that with the fact that there is a prominent wide receiver coming back, and that guy is Cortland Sutton for me. So he's wide receiver 12 since week 4. But this is a trick. Jerry Jeudy's coming back. He's going to take some of the work. And I do wonder if they start to go with a little bit to get the offense at least going to open up the deep passing game. They're just going to throw the ball shorter. They're going to go Teddy check down. That's what they're going to do.
And the other thing, dude, that running game has been looking pretty good, especially Devontae Williams. Like he's looked amazing. I wonder if they start, I thought that's where you're going to go. I wonder if they start to rely on that a bit more to open it up and hand off the ball inside. Because to me, he's looked really good.
Javonte Williams is so explosive. How they haven't used him more. Like I get Melvin Gordon is still a decent running back. I do wonder if it's slowly going to start to shift towards Javonte Williams getting more work. And honestly, Jeff, like if we're looking at this situation, Denver may in fact be like, they sucked against Cleveland, against a really shorthanded Cleveland team. They sucked. I do wonder if a team, maybe a Kansas City, maybe a Baltimore, even though Baltimore's brought in every running back under the sun, I do wonder if Melvin Gordon does get shipped out.
Yeah. I was definitely looking at him for one of these last 2 segments to be scared of or as a trick. Yeah, he's definitely one of those players who needs a change of scenery for sure.
Yeah, and
Marlon Mack might be my 2 guys I'm looking to see if they get traded and what a trade would mean for them and their value. Like how they look. If
Melvin Gordon goes to the Chiefs, are you not totally enamored with it? Like he hasn't looked great, sure. But I mean, it can't be any worse than what they've gotten out of Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, so for sure.
All right, let's talk about a couple more running backs before we get to our not so 2-minute drill.
So let me just add this, Maddie, because I didn't get to give my trick. So you took one of them earlier, so we already discussed them. Tyler Boyd, I think, is trending down in that offense, especially with T. Higgins back and the emergence of Jamar Chase. So Tyler Boyd is my guy. I wouldn't really trust. And the other one is like probably the entire Detroit Lions receiving court. I know people are high on Khalil Raymond this week and maybe chasing him, or Amon St. Brown having a bounce back game because who did they have this week again? I know I just looked this up.
They have the Eagles this week.
The Eagles this week, and the Eagles have no defense whatsoever. And same with Tyler Boyd. Like they're playing the Jets, I believe, Cincinnati. Yeah. So all these receivers could maybe have a big week this week or put up some sort of number. But moving forward, I don't trust any of them because as we saw last week, and I know it was Jalen Ramsey, you had mentioned to me on Amon St. Brown, but like these are receivers that can give you something or give you nothing at all, a zero like Amon did this week. So those are the tricks that I don't care what happens this week. If they have big games against these teams they're playing, again, Tyler Boyd against the Jets or anybody on the Lions against, again, look at this, man.
The Eagles.
My brain is fried against the Eagles, a team with no defense, which is the number 1 team whose defenses look terrible.
Yes.
Although maybe not as bad as Washington, but I don't know. The 2 of them have looked awful.
Yeah, Washington.
But anyways, even if those receivers put up points this week, I'm not counting on them for the rest of the week. They're just not guys I think you can count on. So they're tricks for me.
Okay, now we're going to move on to some waiver wire guys that were pickups and they turned into
this one darlings. I really like. This subject is really interesting to me.
What do we do with Dearness Johnson and what do we do with Khalil Herbert? So we know Dearness Johnson, the great story. He's, he sent Instagram messages or DMs or whatever to all these AAF teams. He finally gets a job, whatever. Then last season, if we recall, Dearness Johnson was a big waiver pickup last year when both running backs went down, and he did almost nothing with that. This time around against a pretty stout Broncos front 7, good. Amazing. Right. And what he did was he showed that he can play at this level. The Broncos defense, maybe they had a bad game, but they are no slouch, Jeff.
Yeah, sure.
So what are we doing with Dearness Johnson here? Because the way I kind of see it is the Browns need to run the ball to have success. Baker Mayfield's broken. If Kareem
and to
Hunt
add to
is
that,
out,
Matty, we know a 2 running back system with this offense works just fine.
Yes.
Like they don't need to give a workhorse load to one to Nick Chubb if he's back. So two working running backs in the system is totally viable.
And Jeff, we don't think that they're going to just jump in and give Nick Chubb 20 carries coming off
an injury. Yes, without a doubt.
There's no
Hamstrings
way.
are always tricky. So
the question is not to hold or to I guess you could trade, but you're certainly not dropping any of these guys because at least Dearness Johnson, not until Kareem Hunt comes back, and he's on the IR, so he's got at least another couple weeks.
2 more weeks. Yeah.
Do we start Dearness Johnson in a flex spot here?
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking about him. I picked him up in a few leagues. The only thing is, again, it is a few tough matchups, but like you said, he looked great against Denver last week. So, and like I said, my confidence in Cleveland having to rely on the running game and that running game being usually a 2-back featured offense. Yeah, I think you definitely can start him as a flex.
Like Kareem Hunt, and again, Dearness Johnson is not Kareem Hunt. I get that. But if you look at Kareem Hunt and the work that he's gotten, yes, albeit Nick Chubb has missed some time, but if you look at the workload that Kareem Hunt gets when Nick Chubb is not in the or when he is in the lineup, you're talking, 10 to 14 touches per week. And that's in an offense where there's a lot of high value touches for a running back. And the reason is because the offensive line is so good and they just run the ball and teams can't stop them.
Dearness Johnson, again, 5'10", 208 pounds. And he showed it last week.
And he looked fast, Jeff.
He did look.
He looked fast.
I didn't know this. Did you know his 2018 pro day? Did you see what his 40-yard dash time was? 4.81.
Yeah, I remember. They talked about it on the broadcast. I think that he had a terrible combine.
He did. Like that time, apparently it's infamous. I don't remember that, which is hilarious. But yes, he looked a lot faster than that this week, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, he was faster than a lineman.
He's a big, strong body. Like, I think he totally still works. And like you said, until Hunt comes back, and again, the fact it's a great point you make. Like, a hamstring injury is always really tricky. You can't push it too hard. If he starts feeling anything, then Dearness Johnson's going to be your guy.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to Khalil Herbert, because he's another guy who is
another guy. Wow.
You know, like, everybody thought that Khalil Herbert was just going to play second fiddle to Damian Williams. And in the first game that both of them played together, because obviously Damian Williams missed the second game due to COVID protocol, Khalil Herbert, even in the game that they both played together, and it was a weird game because the Bears just, I don't know, the Bears are just such a weird team right now. They ended up beating the Raiders, and Khalil Herbert had 18 carries in that game. He had no catches, but he had 18 carries for 75 yards. So we're like, okay.
And then, Matty, even more impressive to me is the 2 weeks after that. You're facing Green Bay and Tampa Bay. You have some pretty good front fours. Like, he did pretty well against them.
What did he do?
He carved them up.
19 carries for 97 yards and a touchdown against Green Bay, adding
and last week was even more impressive.
Yeah, last week was
18 for 100 against Tampa's front four.
With 5 catches for 33 yards.
Wow.
So
insane.
The question now becomes, well, I don't even think it's a question. He's clearly supplanted Damian Williams on the depth chart. And as of now, until David Montgomery comes back, he is the RB1 in Chicago, who's clearly going to run the ball a lot because they don't let Justin Fields throw. By the way, Matt Nagy's an idiot.
Yes, I agree. You know what it is? We can talk about that. It's a play action they're not letting him do, because I saw his completion rates on play action passes.
It's gross.
It's crazy that they don't let him do it. Yeah, it's incredible what it is. And what it is compared to his straight dropbacks and then passes, which he's not doing well at all. Yeah. His play action passes, how they're not called, but that's not the Matt Nagy offense, and Matt Nagy can't.
Matt Nagy's a
okay.
chooch. Anyway, besides that point,
I love that word.
so
That word
I
is
guess the
awesome.
question becomes, what do we expect from Khalil Herbert when David Montgomery
Well,
comes
that's what
back?
my question from you was going to be. And let's be fair, like we just said it, he had a couple tough matches the last 2 weeks, and he's got a couple tough matches coming up. San Fran this week, Pittsburgh after that, then they're on their bye. But my question was to you was going to be, yeah, exactly that. When Montgomery's back, what's the split going to be? And when is it worth to hold on to Herbert, and when can you still start him? Like if it's a 70-30 split, are you still liking Herbert, or I don't know, what's your thoughts?
I do wonder if it's a 60-40 split in terms of workload, just because they're going to try and keep David Montgomery somewhat healthy, I would assume. And this team has shown no willingness to throw the ball. They've shown none. So when Montgomery comes back, I would assume... At
first, I thought it was a slow increase for Fields, but it doesn't even look like that anymore. Like I thought they were building him up every week, a little bit increase, but no.
They're down in
Sometimes
games,
I don't even want him throwing the ball because he just looks so bad. He's so uncomfortable in that offense. Like that's not his style of offense. So I'm almost okay with them running the ball.
I think you can in maybe well, in flex, in a flex, you could probably start Herbert at least for the first week or two when Montgomery comes back, because they're not, again, the same situation like it is with Nick Chubb. They're not going to dump 20 carries onto David Montgomery when he comes in. It's just not happening. But they might be high value touches. That's what has been. Herbert's looked great. I mean, and like you mentioned, the fact that he ran over Tampa Bay's run defense, averaging 5.6 yards per carry. I mean,
the only bright spot last week for them was crazy.
Yeah, it was terrible. All right, let's move on to the.
And Matty, let me ask you this though. Sorry, before we move on, I got one more question for this, because David Montgomery, I believe I was just trying to look at it, has one more year on his contract. Do you see any, like for Dynasty? Do you see any like added value in that with Khalil Herbert, or do you think like you said, like maybe they rest David Montgomery, save him Bifford? Because we've seen teams like just run running backs while they're on their contracts, just like they just run them into the ground, right?
I think
then don't re-sign them.
Yeah, I think they will sign David Montgomery because he's been really good the last season and a half. But here's the thing. I do wonder if you have a running back like Khalil Herbert, who's clearly shown that he is, a pretty decent NFL running back. I do wonder if it's about the next coach that they bring in and if they will deploy a 2 running back system. Like that's where the question
to be the way of the NFL right now.
Yeah, exactly.
NFL right now, without a doubt, I'm with you on that. That's why I just found that kind of curious. And Khalil Herbert is only 23 years old, so I wonder if there's any long-term plans for him. But you're right, that would depend on the coach and who's there. And I think we all don't expect Matt Nagy to be there next year.
I don't think Ryan Pace, the GM, is going to be back out there. I think they're both
yeah, without a doubt.
All right, the not so 2-minute drill, because it's never 2 minutes, but neither is the 2-minute drill in the NFL. Let's be real. Okay, we talked about the Bears. We talked about how terrible Matt Nagy is. And then there's a report. Well, Allen Robinson said he basically didn't work with Justin Fields in the offseason and in training camp. And I'm just like, huh? Matt Nagy's what a donkey. Anyway, as it pertains to Allen Robinson,
chooch, donkey, you're bringing out all the terms this week. I love it.
A chooch is really a donkey.
Donkey, I know, Italian, but I love how you mixed it up. I just wanted to give you some props for that.
I'm multicultural. What can I say? Which player do you want to see traded more to a contender with a better quarterback at this moment in time? Allen Robinson or Brandon Cooks?
Yeah. For me, it has to be Allen Robinson, Matty. It has to be, because Brandon Cooks, I think, thrives from being in that offense there in Houston and being the only real target only real option or target there. Like, to me, I think that benefits him. And like, to me, Brandon Cooks is better for being there. I'd have to go Allen Robinson because, and I almost forgot how good Allen Robinson is, because I haven't seen it at all this year. Like, he's just not there. I want to see that again.
It's funny because Allen Robinson was the one guy that everybody was like, okay, this is the safe pick here. In the 3rd round, Allen Robinson is the safe pick. And he is droppable in a lot of leagues right now. If I'm in redraft leagues, I'm holding with the hope that he's going to get traded. That's what my hope is. He's playing on a franchise tag this year. I doubt they're going to tag him again next year, and he's probably gone. So I'm waiting because they're probably going to want to get an asset for him. The thing with Brandon Cooks is too, Brandon Cooks, even with Davis Mills as his quarterback, has been really good. So I'm not even concerned about it.
I mean, though, he is really the only like big target there, like big
he's
name target
literally
there.
the only option they have, whether it be the
Right.
running
So,
game, whether
I
it's the
think that
passing
helps
game.
him. If he goes somewhere else, and depending where, especially to a contender, like maybe it helps him a bit. But I think being that guy in Houston is kind of his claim to fantasy fame.
All right. Which quarterback for the Niners would you
you're
rather
just full
start?
Of questions today.
Yeah,
I should make you plan
one.
segments more, because all you do is ask me questions, and they're always hard.
Yeah,
they're hard questions.
So which Niners quarterback do you think is a better fantasy start for the players around them? Because you think that Trey Lance's rushing floor is a better fantasy option for Trey Lance, sure, but who's the better option for the guys that he's throwing the ball to, or the running game?
This one, I've actually thought about this one because I do have Trey Lance in some leagues. It depends how much Shanahan, I think, starts trusting Trey Lance to throw the ball. Like, for me, I think we talked about it before. A lot of those plays that were called for him were straight dropbacks and then just runs. Like, it didn't even look like he was trying to throw it. So I don't know. And last week, I was waiting to see what Garoppolo gave you and how, like, to me, I would have leaned Garoppolo before last week, and I know it was crappy weather and that, but I wasn't too confident in what I saw from Garoppolo either. So is C neither an option? Like, I don't know, man. I really don't. Where would you go with it? Yeah, exactly. I just don't know what you're getting from either guy on a given week. Like, I truly don't. I mean, Garoppolo, we know, can look good and look bad. Like, to me, I guess especially for the receivers, Garoppolo would be the guy, but last week I just didn't see it, and we know he has bad weeks, and at those points I have no faith in him. I think eventually, obviously, it'll be Trey Lance again. I think it takes him some time to establish that throwing and hitting his targets, but he's nowhere close to it right now
at the moment.
And Shanahan knows it, and Shanahan to me just shows no confidence in him throwing the ball. Sorry, Maddie.
At this moment, I think Jimmy Garoppolo is the answer. They're going to get Kittle back, I think, next week off IR. So at this point, like, the problem is they're only throwing the ball to Deebo Samuel, and Elijah Mitchell has looked really good running the football. Like, he looked good this past week. So, and even before he got hurt, he looked pretty good. So I think at this moment, it's
that's where's the upside come here? Is it just like we were talking about with the other guys? Yeah, exactly. So and that's it. Like, nobody else. How many other receivers have they cycled through? Like, maybe Mikael Hasty starts to fit in and they start doing some drop-offs to him, but like, that would be about it. Like, and that's the only other things.
Trey Sermon seems dead. I don't know what happened there. That's a wasted pick, it looks like.
Without a doubt. How they refuse to even dress him some weeks is crazy to me. I don't know, in terms of the passing game, like, Deebo again is probably the one guy who you can count on to get targets. And again, I don't trust either quarterback's accuracy right now. So I don't know. Yeah, that's a really tough one.
That's what we're here for. The tough.
I don't think to be fair, fantasy podcast, if you can, I wouldn't start either quarterback. That's for sure. Yeah, no, for sure. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. The Halloween sort of kind of edition of the Front Four Fantasy Podcast. Okay, we're up on Spotify. Leave us a comment, hit subscribe. We're up on Apple Podcasts. Leave a comment, hit subscribe. We're on YouTube. Leave a comment, hit subscribe. I can't tell you to do any more. Follow us on Twitter at MattyMar89, at J_party, at Front Four Fantasy. Do yourself a favor, because we got an episode coming out every single week. This is episode 9. We're flying here, Jack. Flying.
We're flying.
Wow.
And now we got to fly out of here. Talk to you next week.